C.S. Lewis left things fairly sparing in terms of description. I think his whole method of writing is to evoke an image and let the reader imagine it for themselves.
Books are not films, and there are some books that really don't lend themselves to film. With Lewis, that's not the case, but there are moments that need to be fleshed out.
When you read Lewis, particularly as a child, you bring a lot of yourself or your imagination to the whole world and to the kids themselves.
Lewis kind of lets your fertile 10-year-old brain go to town.
I suppose it was great that the book didn't have much description because you're not going to get caught into, oh, well, the book says.
For those people who love the books, I think it's interesting to see what changes are made to bring it onto the screen.
Hi, I'm Doug Gresham, and I'm standing on the magnificent set of King Miraz's castle, constructed at the Barrandov Studios in Prague for the Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. My stepfather, Jack, better known as C.S. Lewis, wrote the Chronicles of Narnia in a spare, poetic style that encouraged the reader's imagination to share in the creation of the world of Narnia. When Andrew Adamson and his team took on the challenge of adapting Prince Caspian to the screen, they went to extraordinary lengths to find the ideal locations, design the perfect sets, and fill them with artifacts and architectural detail that feel entirely authentic to the world of Narnia.
Pauline Baynes' illustrations for Prince Caspian provided filmmakers a visual reference for Lewis's vision of Narnia.
Whenever we get into difficulties with the look of the film, we go back to the book and see in which way we can enhance the original illustrations that Pauline Baynes did.
They found themselves at the edge of the wood, looking down on a sandy beach. A few yards away, a very calm sea was falling on the sand, with such tiny ripples that it hardly made any sound. There was no land in sight, and no clouds in the sky. The sun was about where it ought to be at 10 o'clock in the morning, and the sea was a dazzling blue.
Well, the great thing from this was that we found a location in New Zealand for where the children arrive in Narnia. It's called Cathedral Cove.
There's a lot that happens in a natural world, and it's harder and harder to find locations unspoilt by humanity, so you tend to have to go to the further reaches.
It's an incredible set they've done. Yeah. Really expensive. I don't know, there it's fake. It's not real, it's all just a studio.
There were some locations that were only accessible by helicopter and boat.
We were getting choppered in to a location on a beach and chop it out and chop it back in again. Sand everywhere, salt water everywhere.
It's a remote location, no one's anywhere near here.
And I don't think it's possible for me to not just have my breath taken away by how beautiful the locations are. And even when we're in an intimate scene with the kids, we're still very much in those environments.
But it has a wonderful tunnel-like arch in the rock. So we started to think we could echo the shape of the tube station in the natural formation of the cliff.
So they go into a man-made tunnel and come out into a natural tunnel.
And then they emerge onto the beach.
Right. Well, the beach is described, I think, in the book in very simple terms, just that they came out of the forest and found themselves looking down the sandy beach at the sea.
Yeah.
So you've translated that into a fascinating scenario.
We've tried to make the transition more interesting, yeah.
Where do you suppose we are?
Where do you think?
I remember any ruins in Narnia.
Pressing their way between the laden branches, they reached the wall. It was very old and broken down in places, with moss and wallflowers growing on it. But it was higher than all but the tallest trees. And when they came quite close to it, they found a great arch, which must once have had a gate in it, but was now almost filled up with the largest of all the apple trees.
We knew what the set for 𝔑𝔤𝔤𝔤 consisted of and how big it was, and so we obtained the drawings back again.
The ones you'd done for Lion Wish?
Yes.
Right.
And we found the location where we could actually, it was big enough on a promontory looking over the sea to rebuild 𝔑𝔤𝔤𝔤 except in a ruined form.
This didn't just happen. 𝔑𝔤𝔤𝔤 was attacked.
The landscape was an important part there. 𝔑𝔤𝔤𝔤 was a big build on top of the cliffs.
Well, it's one of the most amazing things about this film, actually, I think. You come to a hitherto uninhabited knoll on the coastline of the Coromandel Peninsula in New Zealand, and what do you find? You find a 1,300-year-old ruined, destroyed castle 𝔅𝔬𝔬𝔨.
Action!
You would swear that this is a destroyed castle dating back 1,300 or 1,400 years. It's all in the attention to detail. It's lovely. It's beautiful.
Andrew decided that 𝔅𝔬𝔬𝔨 had been attacked by the 𝔬𝔬𝔨. That's not absolutely clear in the book. And the entrance in the book is covered in ivy, which wouldn't have been difficult to find if you were looking seriously. So we had to devise a way of thinking, well, how can we make sure that the 𝔬𝔬𝔨 never found this place? Because it's full of gold and treasure, and they certainly would have looted it. So we devised this stone architecture, which the kids know is on a roller. And if they push hard enough, the stone statue moves aside, revealing the doorway to the treasure chamber.
All knew that it was indeed the ancient treasure chamber of 𝔅𝔬𝔨, where they had once reigned as kings and queens of Narnia. At intervals stood rich suits of armor, like knights guarding the treasures. In between the suits of armor, and on each side of the path, were shelves covered with precious things, necklaces and arm rings and finger rings, and golden bowls and dishes and long tusks of ivory, brooches and coronets and chains of gold, and heaps of unset stones, lying piled anyhow as if they were marbles or potatoes, diamonds, rubies, carbuncles, emeralds, topazes, and amethysts.
I went to lots of different museums around London and Paris, and I actually did go around to all the prop stores to see whether I could hire you know, just your standard treasure, but there wasn't enough anywhere. So we hired pieces that my model-making shop moulded.
And we made, I think it was 2,500 pieces of treasure. So we had the team working day and night for 3 months to do that.
It's all basically fake, so we can design it ourselves. We can make it more Narnian. We can design the treasure chests for each child with particular carvings on it relating to their lives and their characters. And by doing that, we make it much more relevant to the film than it would otherwise be.
It's amazing how little the filmmakers had to work with. Listen to this description of the truffle hunter's set. When he came to himself, he was lying in a firelit place with bruised limbs and a bad headache. Low voices were speaking close at hand. He saw, too, that he was on a bed of heather in a cave. The book gives you very little guideline, I think, on, for example, the cave for truffle hunter Knickerbrick and Trumpkin.
Yes.
So how did you come up with this wonderfully organic form?
Well, again, you know, Andrew's, he's the guy with a lot of the ideas, and he'd taken a photograph up inside a hollow oak tree, and we started to develop the idea that Truffle Hunters was actually underneath a huge tree.
So we decided that the furniture would have maybe started out being his great-great-great-great-grandparents' furniture, and it was actually really nice pieces in their day, and it was all carved, and we used sort of leaf motifs and that sort of things for the furniture. And that over the years, because the Narnias had been on hard times, the pieces had crumbled and fallen to bits, and that he'd found bits of stick and logs and whatnot from the forest and cobbled them together. I think his bed's a great image of that. It's kind of got a branch on one end, and then it's got this lovely kind of Spanish-looking carved bed head at the other half.
It was a great set to design. Everything, of course, in it was designed to the scale of a badger. So even the plates and the knives and everything. Because it's such a small set, and it really was only this high, we had to build it like a jigsaw puzzle because the crew have to get in and film it. So it was built in segments, and it was all put on wheels on these segments. So each time they wanted a shot into it, we could pull out this segment and shoot the scene, or then we could go and pull out that segment, and it worked out fine.
I'm not a soldier. I'm Prince Caspian.
Prince Caspian lived in a great castle in the center of Narnia, with his uncle Miraz, the king of Narnia, and his aunt, Queen 𝔬𝔬𝔨. Twice a week, his uncle would send for him, and They would walk up and down together for half an hour on the terrace at the south side of the castle.
We had 3 months to build this castle. We started straight after Christmas, and in the Czech Republic, you know, the temperatures and the snow can drop to 20 degrees below. When you get to those sort of temperatures, you can't plaster, you try and paint something, it freezes, and when it starts thawing, everything just falls off the walls. But, you know, somebody was up there smiling down on us, we got away with it.
With the castle, we looked for an identity for it, a moodiness, a character of its own. So that within the film, it'll become a memorable building, a kind of character reflecting the culture of the 𝔬𝔤𝔦𝔫𝔠𝔢 and of Miraz. There is an illustration of Miraz's castle, and I think they're sort of basically a Gothic castle, which we've all seen in fairy tale books and illustrations. We went in a slightly different direction with this one. We wanted it to be brooding and rather, you know, oppressive.
It's fairly intimidating, and it's not really hard to act scared, because generally if you're thinking something, that will show on your face. And I was thinking, I'm pretty scared right now. But the sets are awesome and inspiring.
And it's incredible. I had to look up a few times, because otherwise I would have forgotten that I was in a stage.
Oh, you're painting now? They're gonna paint it out in CGI anyway.
I remember going to the castle. It's absolutely amazing, and they just built it, and I just remember going and I was speechless. All I could say was wow, and I was just such in awe.
The really great thing about it was by designing our own castle, you know, we could design things that were specific to the 𝔬𝔬𝔫 world and hadn't been seen before, and really made it, I think, more believable.
Get up.
Thank goodness. You'll see. We have an opportunity in each set to reflect in some way the character. It's not just another room. If you look at Miraz's bedroom, you know, it's spiky and sharp and metallic and hard. If you look at Caspian's room, it's a much softer, much more interesting room with lovely paintings on the wall of astronomy and the heavens and things he's studying.
We basically started off thinking of Caspian as having a foot in two worlds. So we've used a Starry Night inspiration for the ceiling, and we've used sort of the 𝔬𝔬𝔫𝔫 compass symbol, but turned it into stars for Caspian. So Caspian's kind of slightly caught between the two worlds.
Professor, I have to find him.
We actually saw a location of a 12th century crypt outside Prague. And I thought this could be Cornelius's room. It's got all these lovely columns and arches, and it sort of feels right for him.
His room was quite different to the other rooms in that 𝔬𝔬𝔫𝔫 castle.
It's something that tells you more about the character himself or herself.
He's a scientist, but he does astronomy, astrology, magic, chemics, biology, probably. So it's full of different things. It's a wonderful set. It's one of my most beautiful sets in the movie, and probably one of my most beautiful sets in my career.
If Caspian does know of the deep magic, my lord would have good reason to be nervous.
The place where they had met the fawns was, of course, the dancing lawn itself. And there Caspian and his friends remained till the night of the Great Council. Now, the dancing lawn has to be a place of mystery and strangeness. So this set that we're in is actually really the product of the imagination and genius of our production designer, Roger Ford, and of course, Andrew Adamson's vision behind that. It's all been built with a sense of mystery, strangeness, and unusual formations.
You know, there were a couple of locations we thought, well, this could be dancing lawn. But for one reason or another, it didn't quite work, or the access was too difficult. It's a night scene, and we really want to control this. So we brought together all the elements, and in a sense, we'll finish up with a better result, because we can give Andrew exactly what he wants without any complications.
So you've actually cherry-picked the very best of all of these different locations
exactly,
and put them
yeah.
all in one place.
The rocks and the trees and the shape.
Right.
and the waterfall, and we put them all together in the studio. And then we can light it beautifully and...
just make it work.
Yeah.
Together, we have a chance to take back what is ours.
Well, when they asked what 𝔑𝔞𝔯𝔫𝔤 is, this is how Jack described it in the book. It lies within the skirts of the great woods, and it is a huge mound which Narnians raised in very ancient times over a very magical place, where there stood, and perhaps still stands, a very magical stone. The mound is all hollowed out within in galleries and caves, and the stone is in the central cave of all.
𝔑𝔞𝔯𝔫𝔤 is a strange name for a very big mound that the Narnians have built, covered up the original stone table from the first film, which is now like a sacred site, to protect it and to keep it secret.
Well, I notice you've got over here some pictures of 𝔑𝔞𝔯𝔫𝔤, and the way it looks in the movie, whereas in fact on the set it comes to about there somewhere.
There.
And the rest is put in with computers after.
Computer. This is an instance of how we've tried to enhance the story in the book.
Stand by!
It was certainly an awesome place, a round green hill on top of another hill, long since grown over with trees, and one little low doorway leading into it. The tunnels inside were a perfect maze till you got to know them, and they were lined and roofed with smooth stones. And on the stones, peering in the twilight, Caspian saw strange characters and snaky patterns, and pictures in which the form of a lion was repeated again and again.
One of the scenes that we filmed in the stone table room was where Lucy kind of remembers what the stone table was used for in the last movie. And that was quite a poignant moment because it took me back to when we were filming the scene where the White Witch kills Aslan on the stone table.
Die!
The stone table itself, I think, is the same one. It came all the way from New Zealand to here.
And I think walking into that set, it was easy to get the feeling of sort of nostalgia combined with awe.
But it's massive. It's such a huge set. And I had a scene where earlier on in the movie where I light the entire room up, and it's really magic. And Andrew actually played some music from the coronation of the first movie during that scene to make us all kind of feel the epic size of what we were doing.
Cameras up.
Finally made it to an outdoor location.
The sun's shining.
Sun's shining. It's a beautiful day, and we're happy to be here.
The detail, Chris, the little bits of detail.
We planned the interior of the How on drawings to see where each area in the film occurs. Andrew naturally wanted to superimpose the different areas on the plan and how it all links and where the entrance is and what happens underneath it. Then we have to believe that by going down into the How, we come into this strange underground area, which we're calling the 𝔑𝔞𝔯𝔫𝔠𝔢, which extends underground quite a long way, and which is the device by which the Narnians are able to overcome the first wave of attack from the Telmarines.
The bridge at Baruna, which became such a huge undertaking, an enormous construction for the crew, starts out in the book like this. The river gorge had just made a bend, and the whole view spread out beneath them. They could see open country, stretching before them to the horizon, and between it and them, the broad silver ribbon of the great river. They could see the specially broad and shallow place which had once been the fords of Baruna, but was now spanned by a long, many-arched bridge. There was a little town at the far end of it.
The Baruna Bridge, where we've been filming recently, the natural setting is just overwhelming.
That's right, we have this great location in Slovenia, the 𝔑𝔞𝔯𝔫𝔫 River, which is beautiful and actually matches our locations in New Zealand. The colour of the water.
It looks very similar, doesn't it?
It is. It could be New Zealand.
I think people are going to think that the water is CG because the colour looks completely unreal.
I can remember going there on the recce with Andrew, and he says, turned around to me and said, well, can you build a bridge on this roaring mountain river? And I'm thinking, oh, okay, we'll kind of give it a go. the idea was actually just reroute the river to make it easier for us to build it.
Because it is a stony riverbed, and with the authorities being cooperative, we were able to divert the course of the river so that we can build our bridge on dry land.
We finished the bridge last week, so now it's time to redirect the river into its original riverbed. So we have water flowing under our bridge at the end of the week.
And these trees here don't exist in the location, so we're going to have to put in 100 trees into this landscape.
But to build something this complicated and potentially, you know, it was a dangerous thing to do. You know, to put major cast and crew over a roaring river can't be undertaken lightly.
This is the sort of thing that we get into on movies of this scale.
At one end of the glade, Aslan had caused to be set up 2 stakes of wood, higher than a man's head and about 3 feet apart. A third and lighter piece of wood was bound across them at the top, uniting them, so that the whole thing looked like a doorway from nowhere into nowhere.
When Aslan invites people to go back to their own country in the book, they make a portal with 3 pieces of wood. And it's like, well, how can we make this more filmic, more dramatic? So we started to think that perhaps Aslan could call upon a tree, because trees play such a great part in the film, to twist and open and make a portal. And Andrew said, well, we should put the tree on the edge of the cliff.
How do we know he is not leading us to our death?
So that when you walk through, it's a leap of faith. Because if it doesn't work, you're going to fall 500 feet.
We'll go.
We will?
Suddenly, we've got a lot more than 3 pieces of wood to walk through. And in this sense, you know, we enhance the ideas of the illustrations in the book.
C.S. Lewis put enough in the books to create some sort of universal imagery. It gave us the freedom, I think, to look everywhere, to find our own battlefields, to find our own rivers.
Narnia's always blown me away. It's always been beyond my expectations, beyond my imagination.
We're creating Narnia. We're creating situations that in the book are left to the imagination.
I think it fits with what anybody's vision of Narnia would be right.
So the challenge for us has been to take the imaginary world of Narnia and convert it into something vibrant and alive and rich and filled with details. I think Jack, if he'd watched our movies, would be very proud of the way our team have done Prince Caspian.